to her son's face. "Eric," she muttered, more to herself than to her son. Hiccup leaned down so that Finn could see him in his peripheral vision. "Let it out, Finn. We want to talk to you." "No, what I did, after." Finn shook his head. "I just ran off L like a coward and IW went to Mayro." He felt both his parents stiffen next to him in response. His shoulders shook with emotion as he recounted the whole story, how he had looked at the place where he and Binnen had slept as slaves, the carvings on the walls, Ratri finding him there. He trembled as he remembered the anger, the hatred, that had coursed through him as he choked the man from his nightmares. And then the change of heart, simply born out of the memories of his best friend. "I would have killed him," Finn finished, his voice filling the silent room. "I wanted to. It would have been easy. But you didn't." Hiccup reminded him. "You let him go. Only because of Binnen." Finn turned to his father, his face twisting with pain. "Without him, I'm a monster. Everything I've done, all the progress I've made, it's not me. It's him." "Oh Finn." Astrid leaned down and put her forehead against his, wiping his tears with her thumbs. "You're not a monster. You made the choice to let Ratri go. You chose to forgive him. But I didn't forgive him." Finn shook his head. "I don't know if I can forgive him." "You don't have to right now." Astrid kissed his forehead. "You did the right thing. And I'm so proud of you. That shows real character." "No, it shows that I listened to Binnen." Finn sniffled loudly. "He was the real hero. He forgave Ratri and he told me to and I never listened. I'm nothing without him." Finn Hiccup paused, apparently considering his words for a moment. "Binnen wasn't perfect. He made mistakes just like you did. Not like me." Finn turned to his father and wiped his eyes. "He would never have done what I did. Except that he did," Astrid said calmly. Finn whipped his head around to face her. "He just didn't tell you." Finn's heart began to pound so hard that it echoed in his head. Binnen make the same mistakes. Binnen let lust and hatred consume him. The thought was almost laughable. "You're just saying that to make me feel better." "No." Hiccup patted Finn's shoulder. "We're saying it because it's true. He told us because he wanted you to know one day. Why wouldn't he tell me?" Finn looked between his parents, his eyes wide. "You were young," Astrid replied. "He didn't want to ruin your image of him before you were old enough to understand why he did what he did." Finn audibly swallowed. "What did he do?" "Not long before he died, he approached us. It had almost been a good day. Inga was awake, Hiccup and Astrid had witnessed Finn's first awkward kiss with Helga, and the village was beginning to slowly heal from the plague that had struck mere days before. But as Finn and Helga walked together to the Great Hall, Hiccup and Astrid were walking with Binnen to the forge, wondering why he had asked to speak with them in private. Once they were seated, Binnen took a deep breath. "Finn, he's so much like me," Binnen began, a small smile on his lips. "Stubborn as a mule. Insistent on getting his way. I used to drive my parents crazy with my energy and mischief with my big sister. You wouldn't think it to see me now, but I was quite the troublemaker. I can believe it." Hiccup grinned. "And if Finn turns out as well as you did, I'll be very thankful indeed." "Oh. I hope he doesn't." Binnen sighed wistfully. "See, that all changed in an instant. I had started reining in my stubbornness when I was with Aida. She liked that I had spirit, but we got into many an argument over my stupidity. She was so calm, so compassionate, every bit as mature and controlled as I was immature and wild. We really did balance each other out perfectly." Astrid reached forward and put her hand on top of his. Binnen gave her a slight nod in thanks as he continued his story. "My village was raided. So many people died, others taken as slaves. I know Aida managed to escape, but I wasn't so lucky. I remember being taken into the deepest part of the ship with some of my people. For years, the sounds of the children crying for their parents haunted me. I was sold at the first place we went to, a farmer and his family. The work was hard and he beat me so many times when my rebellious streak would come out. It wasn't long before I was downtrodden. I was the only slave there, so I became lonely and desperate for attention or even a kind word. Binnen shook his head, as if to ward off residual emotion. I worked there for a long time. And after a while, after I had become a shell of the person I had become, the farmer's daughter, a teenager by that point, started asking me to do her favors. I think she had a bit of a crush on me, to be honest. I was much more handsome back then than now. Hiccup had a feeling that he knew where this story was going. He almost didn't want Binnen to continue. He wanted to think of Binnen as a wise man, a good example for Finn and the rest of the young people in the village. But the look on Binnen's face, this was clearly a mistake that caused him great emotional agony. We got to talking. She was so kind, I lost myself. I started sneaking off with her to talk at night time. Almost every night, if she could get away from her parents without being seen. And it started as just talking. But then, one night, Binnen closed his eyes, apparently ashamed to see the looks on Hiccup and Astrid's face. She kissed me. And I was so very lonely, in so much pain, so desperate for love that I didn't even think. I just let lust take over and Oh Binnen, you didn't. Astrid breathed, her hand tightening over his. Not a day goes by that I don't regret it. She was barely 15 years old and I was in my 20s. I took advantage of her and it was filthy and wrong. Binnen finally opened his eyes and looked at Hiccup and Astrid. I hope you'll forgive me. It was a long time ago. Astrid said, keeping her voice low so that passers-by wouldn't hear. It would be cruel to treat you badly just because you made a mistake and regretted it all these years. Thank you. Binnen looked like he was going to cry with gratitude. But I'm not finished. We sneaked out for a few months and managed to keep it a secret. She was talking about freeing me so we could get married when she came of age. Then one day, she came to me, crying her eyes out, telling me she was pregnant. You have a child. Hiccup blurted out without thinking. He felt heat rise to his face as he leaned in and lowered his voice, hoping no one had heard his outburst. Sorry, but why didn't you ever mention it? Shame, I suppose. We tried to hide it for a while but the truth came out soon enough. Her father was furious. He gave me the worst beating of my life, then forced me to work around the clock. I almost died from exhaustion. As for his daughter, he forced her to give the baby away, told her she was too young to be a mother. She begged him not to, but she couldn't change his mind. Binnen wiped his face, the memory was clearly still painful. She had a little girl. I remember standing by the house and hearing my baby crying, wanting so much to be there and to hold her. I never even saw her. Hiccup felt his heart constrict painfully. He couldn't imagine never seeing his children, never knowing the kind of people they would become. His own daughter brought him so much joy, how painful must it have been to miss out on every single memory, to never have gazed into her eyes and felt that rush of love that only a parent could possibly understand. To live his entire life wondering what she looked like, never knowing all of her little quirks. The mere thought made him want to cry, but he shoved his emotions down so that Binnen could express his. I'm so sorry, he whispered after it had been quiet for a long while. Why didn't you try to find her? Astrid asked, her voice sounding slightly choked. I don't know her name. How could I track her down when I don't have the slightest idea where she went or what she looks like? She probably doesn't even know her mother's name. Binnen shook his head. She's a grown woman by now, probably has her own family. I can only hope she was happy, that she had her mother's good looks and compassion instead of my immaturity and foolishness. What was her mother's name? Astrid asked. Maybe we can find her. Camille. But she died a few years ago. I found out when I overheard a conversation about her while I was working for Ratri. I don't know any more than that. Binnen sniffed, accepting the handkerchief that Astrid handed him. I hope she was happy. I hope I didn't ruin her life just because I couldn't control myself. Wouldn't control myself, more like. But I'm telling you this because I'm worried about Finn. He's so much like I was and I don't ever want him to go through that. Hiccup tensed. Do you really think he's at risk? I'm not sure. Certainly not right now. But given enough sadness and pain, I fear he could be pushed in that direction. The desire to bend and break the rules is strong when you have no guidance. Binen's voice broke and he covered his face with his hand. I'm sorry, I don't fear death. And I'm at peace with my life as it was. I've made a difference and that was all I ever wanted. But I am concerned for Finn. I want to see the man he'll become and I know I won't get that chance. Come here. Astrid sat down next to him and hugged him from the side. I know you didn't get to be there for your little girl. And I'm so sorry about that. But what you've done for our family, for all four of us, that's not going to be forgotten. Tell him. Binen wiped his face and looked directly at Hiccup. Tell him what I did, the pain it caused me even now. Tell him that there's always a second chance, an opportunity to turn away from his mistakes and make the right choices. Tell Anna too. We will. Hiccup promised. When they're old enough. One more thing, I don't want Finn thinking that I was only there for him to make up for not being there for my daughter. I was there because he needed someone. And I have been honored to be that someone. Binen smiled through his tears. Thank you, Binen. Hiccup stood up and waited for Binen to stand up before embracing him. You're not going to be forgotten. I pray not. Binen tittered. Now we should probably get to the Great Hall and keep an eye on that boy before he decides to sneak off and practice his kissing techniques. Hiccup and Astrid laughed. That we should. Hiccup said, leading them out of the forge. Finn sat in stunned silence, staring at his dad long after he'd finished the story. You're not the only one who's messed up in that area. Astrid said softly. In fact, some have run the whole 9 miles. Finn stared at the floorboards. I never would have thought Binen would do something like that. He was young and lonely and when Camille showed him kindness, he took advantage of it. Hiccup said. When you've hit rock bottom, it's hard to control your desires and emotions. Wouldn't you say? Finn nodded solemnly. Binen always saw something in you that he not only admired, but also wanted to protect. He didn't want you to fall into the same traps of life that he did. That's why he told us about it. Finn sniffed. And I still threw it in his face. In your faces. Hiccup squeezed his shoulder. We were kids once too, Finn. We all had to learn things the hard way sometimes. And, bear this in mind, we haven't lived life before. This is all new to us too, we're still learning as time goes on. There's not manual of life that tells us what choices to make, which streets to turn down. How boring would life be if that's how it worked? We might make less stupid mistakes. Finn mumbled. Hiccup leaned forward so their eyes met. But then we wouldn't have some of the greatest gifts people can have, like creativity, ingenuity, leadership. If everything was set in stone to work one way, everyone took the same path until they died. It would be dull. Pointless. No lessons to be learned. Finn nodded. He understood now. But, now what? Astrid exhaled through her nose, sitting back on the cushions. What do you think we should do? Finn thought. I need to apologize to people. Lots and lots of people. But most importantly, Eric. He gulped. If he's even woken up yet. Hiccup nodded. He's woken up a few times. Is he okay? Finn asked hopefully. I think he'll pull through. Hiccup said calmly. He's still got a long road to recovery. We'll fit him with a prosthetic and he'll learn how to walk again as I did. Day by day, we'll get through it. Finn's chest hurt, his stomach twisted in uncomfortable knots. His head pounded from a headache. He felt disgusting from his long day of non-stop flying and stressing over the outcome. He never expected his parents to sit him down in the living room and let him air out all his problems, all of which he'd caused. Looking at them both however, he only saw love. Maybe some sadness and definitely fatigue, but in their eyes he saw hope. He'd come home after all and together they'd change things. Hiccup stifled a yawn. We should all get to bed. Oh. Astrid sat up straight all of a sudden. Wait a second. She stood and nearly ran into the kitchen, rummaging around the washtub. Finn watched her curiously as she snatched something off the counter and walked back over to him. Sitting down, she picked up his hand and dropped an item with a long leather strap into his open palm. He stared down at Binen's wooden necklace with the word Fortis carved into the top. "This is yours." Astrid smiled. Finn shook his head. "I don't deserve this. I tainted every memory I have of him." "No, you made poor choices and there's a lot of cleanup to do," Astrid said firmly, picking up the necklace. "But from this day forward, we're going to learn what true strength really means. As a team." She looped the necklace over his head and beamed. Finn stared down at the necklace nestled against his chest once again. His eyes brimmed at the comfort. He hadn't realized just how empty he felt without it. Leaning forward, he hugged his mom tightly. "Thanks, Mom." "Of course." A soft snore interrupted their touching moment. Finn turned and flicked his father's arm. Hiccup jerked. "What?" "Oh. Yeah, Fortis. Teamwork." "Yeah." Finn snickered as Hiccup fell back across the couch, rubbing his eyes. "Go to bed, Dad." "MMPH." Hiccup murmured before his head slumped to one side. Finn whistled. "Wow. I've never seen him fall asleep that fast before. He hasn't slept much the last week." Astrid murmured. Finn instantly felt guilty. "It wasn't just you." He was worried about Eric. "Is he really okay?" Finn asked. "Yes. The first few days were very hard, but since the first time he woke up, he's improved significantly," Astrid said, watching in slight amusement as Finn yawned long and hard. "Go to bed, Finn. New day tomorrow. Do you want some water or anything?" "Sure." Astrid nodded and bustled into the kitchen. A minute later she returned with a tall glass of water and froze at the edge of the couch. A small, happy smile wormed its way onto her face. Finn had apparently laid his head back on the couch and slumped to the side so most of his upper half was completely leaning against Hiccup for support. The sight nearly made her tear up because it was both adorable and encouraging. Both her boys were beyond exhausted, so much that they didn't even notice the current state of their slumber. But that was trivial. Finn was home, repentant, ready, and willing to make changes. It had been a long, hard road, and it was only going to get bumpier as time went on, but the turmoil would be worth it in the end. They would teach their fearless Finn the meaning of true strength. Binen's legacy would not be shredded to a pulp so easily. Another nightmare-less night. Adriana was very thankful for this when she woke up to the morning glow cascading through her curtains. Eric's accident and resulting injury had triggered some serious nightmares. However, it seemed that the day he woke up and he gradually regained some strength, the nightmares went away. She found this rather strange, since they almost never went away so quickly, but she didn't dare question it. She was thankful. End of story. Crawling out of bed, she did her best to tame her hair and found a clean outfit to wear. Frost covered most of her window, so she knew to wear a long-sleeved wool shirt and extra thick leggings today. As she dressed, her eyes glanced around her messy bedroom and realized she'd have to clean this mess up soon. Her dresser was getting emptier and emptier by the day. Soon enough she'd run out of clothes. At long last, she deemed herself presentable enough to be seen in public. Book in hand, Adriana tramped down the stairs, eager for breakfast. She saw her mother bustling through the kitchen, eggs and bacon frying over the open fire and biscuits in their stove oven. Her stomach rumbled loudly, earning a smile from her mother. "Sorry, I'm starving," Adriana said. "Good morning, starving, I'm Astrid." Adriana raised an eyebrow. "You're certainly cheerful this morning." "What?" "Sure." Astrid gestured toward the couch with her knife before checking the biscuits. Adriana looked across the room in surprise. Sprawled along the couch were her father and Finn, who'd apparently returned from his excursions during the night. Her twin was completely sprawled out, face buried against their father's waist. The chief himself would probably be experiencing some back and neck pain when he woke up due to his half-slumped position against the armrest. "What time did he get in?" Adriana asked in disgust. "Almost 2. Your father was still awake. And you let him stay." Astrid frowned at her. "Adri, he's our son. He's sorry for everything that's happened. Sorry or not, he still nearly killed Eric, Adriana said as she took a seat at the table. Something has to be done. And something will be done. Astrid reassured her. Finn doesn't apologize for things often, but when he recognizes his mistakes, he does what's needed to make it right. I doubt we'll have any problems. Yeah, I'm sure. Adri, that's enough. Astrid said sternly, pulling out the biscuits. You've made your opinion known. Let's drop it. Adriana leaned against her hand in annoyance. She knew she should drop it, but anger still kindled in her chest. She wanted steep repercussions on the boy who nearly took her best friend away forever. She stared at his slack face from across the room, but gradually she felt her heart soften ever so slightly. The sight of her dad and brother sacked out on the couch really was kind of cute, she had to admit. Food's ready. Great. Adriana jumped up and filled a plate. When she returned to her seat and began wolfing down her food, she vaguely realized that she should probably learn how to cook someday. If she ever wanted to have a home and family of her own, she'd certainly need to feed them. Though it would be great if her future husband could cook as well, seeing as she was currently the future chiefess and all. Her hopefully hubby would have to be able to juggle roles, she supposed. With those happy thoughts, she continued to munch her bacon, though with less excitement. Her mother sat beside her and began buttering a biscuit, but her swift mood change was not lost on the older woman. Okay. Adriana mumbled. Just thinking about chief stuff. Oh. Astrid nodded. Pass the jam, please. Adriana passed the jar and waited for her mother's response, which didn't come until after the biscuit was completely covered. Your dad and I have talked about that. We're not happy with how it's turned out because that's never been the plan. But maybe Finn will redeem himself after all and you won't have to be chief in the end. Adriana poked at her eggs. Maybe. Astrid nudged her with an elbow. Don't be so glum. Your father never wanted to be chief either and look how well it's turned out. Yeah, but he was born for it. That's always been Finn's thing. You don't know that. Maybe Finn was meant to lead a simple life and you lead our people into the future. Great pep talk, Mom, but no, Adriana smirked. Finn cooking meals and washing laundry all day. No. Hey, I'm a great cook. The ladies looked to the couches where Finn was sitting up, rubbing his face. He still looked really tired and when their eyes met, Adriana saw sadness and guilt flash across his face. He looked at the floor. Adriana swallowed her initial snide remarks. After a few silent comments, she managed, You always did make a mean apple pie, Finnegan. Finn looked up at her with a hopeful expression, but shrugged, I just follow the recipe. Must take a lot of strength to trust in someone else's instructions, Adriana commented. Rather than doing your own thing. Astrid gave her a look. Adriana. It's fine, Mom. Finn said softly. I deserve whatever she has to say. That doesn't mean we need to live in animosity and bitterness for the next 2 years. Astrid said calmly. If we're to make changes around here, we need to work together as a team. We never were good at teamwork. Adriana said. Then we best start learning. Finn stared at the floorboards, ignoring her gaze. She could tell he was deeply sorry for what happened. But like everything in her life, she had realistic expectations. Prove to me that you've changed. Then maybe I can forgive you. Finn nodded quietly from his seat. Then Hiccup stirred, groaning and slowly sitting up. Ow. Astrid. Do not blame me for falling asleep on the couch. I've warned you about that. Astrid smirked at the stink eye he was giving her. Women. Finn stifled a smile beside their dad. Hiccup stretched and slapped Finn on the shoulder. I smell bacon. Finn nodded, but strangely he didn't jump up to fill a plate. Finn never passed up bacon. He never passed up food, period. Food was Fearless Finn's first love, and somehow he seemed disinterested. He looked a little pale and weak, she realized. She wondered if he'd eaten much on his trip. Shaking out of her trance, Adriana grabbed her dishes and dumped them in the wash bin. I'm going to check on Eric. I just woke up, you're leaving already. Hiccup whined. A girl's got stuff to do, places to go, people to see. Adriana smiled sympathetically. Boyfriends to catch up with. Astrid chimed. Huh? Adriana asked, pulling on her coat and boots. I talked to Brandine yesterday. For about 2 minutes, Addy. Hiccup said through a yawn. You need to give him some attention. But Eric is fine. Hiccup said firmly. She didn't miss the way Finn ducked his head and Hiccup squeezed his shoulder. I won't tell you what to do, and I don't blame you for spending time with Eric. But if your mom had a guy friend who got hurt when we were dating and she continually blew me off for a week straight to spend time with him, I wouldn't be too happy either. I think spending time with my ailing friend is more important than a lengthy conversation in the Great Hall or a workout session that's only going to make me sweat like a wild hog. Adriana remarked flatly. Finn smirked but didn't comment. Addy, boys think differently than girls. Yes, I'm well aware of the strange male mind. My point is that when a guy sees his girl continually choosing another boy over him, he's going to get upset in some way. Hiccup amended. That's all I'm saying. Adriana sighed. I just don't want anything to happen when I'm not there. Her father gave her a small smile. Mara's got him well taken care of. Trust me. All right, I'll try to do something with him today. Keep your coat on, it's going to be cold today. How do you know? Adriana asked. Are you a weatherman? Hiccup snorted. Weatherman? If only such a thing existed. No, he patted his left leg. I can feel it. Oh. Okay. Adriana nodded and opened the door. Guess I'll see you guys later then. She stepped out into the cold, quickly closing the door behind her. The frosty grass crunched beneath her feet, the early signs of winter scattered across the ground. The barn door locks froze her fingertips, but she finally managed to undo it and step inside. Lily greeted her from her pen, stretching her neck and legs. Hey there, beauty. How's my girl? Lily nuzzled her face, accepting all the hugs and kisses she could. Let's saddle up, we've got a lot to do today. Within 10 minutes, she'd fed her purple flying lizard and they were in the air, soaring toward the village. Lily enjoyed the chilly air, using her fiery scales to keep Adriana from freezing. The teenager found it quite a nice feature, until Lily sometimes lost control and started to burn her leggings. Thankfully that hadn't happened in quite some time. Landing in front of the healers, Adriana slipped off and told Lily to find someone to play with. She pushed the door open, took off her coat, and peeked into Eric's room. He was already sitting up in his bed, a stack of books at his bedside table. His good knee was drawn up, creating a tent in the blankets over his injured leg, but she could see him concentrating on something in front of him. What you doing, Blondie? Eric jerked, then winced in pain. Ow. Sorry. Adriana whispered. It's okay, I just didn't hear you. Eric held up his hands, which held a cord of leather with beads strung through the braids. A small pile of colorful beads rested in a bowl on his stomach. I usually hate beading, but... He shrugged. It passes the time. It's pretty, Adriana said in admiration. You're really good at that. Eric shrugged. Simple leather work. This is what Horst first taught me to test my skills and patience. You always did have a lot of patience. He snorted, setting the half-done item aside. Beading is right up there at my limit. Adriana laughed, setting her book down on top of his stack. She watched his eyes drift over to the book and then light up in recognition. He gave her a crooked smile. I see you're enjoying it. Yes. This is actually the 3rd time I've read it. She made a sheepish face. I need a new book. I suppose I'll have to move on with my life once it's over, but Adriana stopped, finally noticing Eric's dimpled grin. Wait. You gave it to me. Eric laughed. Yeah, a little birdie told me you wanted the next book. Imagine my good fortune when I saw it on Johann's ship last time he was here. But that was, back in May. Yup. You held on to it for that long? Adriana asked. She sobered. Why did you even get me a gift? I wasn't talking to you. I wasn't really talking to you either. It was a two-way street, Annie. Eric said. I don't know. Deep down, we were still friends. Just, a lot of stuff got in the way. A lot of important stuff. That's not more important than our friendship. Eric's face suddenly tinged pink, as if he were embarrassed. Right. Adriana smiled. No, I suppose not. Eric bit his lip. Yeah. So I saw it and traded him some stuff for it. I was really excited. I was actually on my way to give it to you when I remembered that we weren't friends anymore. That was awkward. Habit must have kicked in. But then I decided, hey, might as well wait for your birthday. My only regret was that I didn't get to see you up. Ow. Ow. His face suddenly tightened in pain. He bit his lip and Adriana noticed his hand gripping the sheets. What? Are you okay? Adriana jumped up. Should I get Mara? No, no. Eric waved her off, covering his forehead. It'll pass. Just, stay. Adriana stood there for a few minutes, watching and waiting nervously. She saw sweat bead on his forehead after a few minutes and she really wondered if she should ignore him and get Mara anyway. But finally he let out a shaky breath and adjusted his sitting position. Sorry. He said shakily. Your dad wasn't kidding when he said you can feel storms coming. Oh. Adriana said in shock. He mentioned that earlier. Eric wiped his forehead on his sleeve. It started hurting a few hours ago. That's why I'm awake. Adriana thought about that. Usually when she came in the mornings, he didn't wake up for a few hours after. This was the first morning she'd seen him awake before she arrived. I'm sorry. Do you need medicine or anything? If it gets too much to handle, then I'm supposed to tell Mara. She said I need to get used to it, the pain though, as opposed to painkillers. Makes sense. My dad almost never takes medicinal teas or herbs. He's got a high pain tolerance though. Eric said. Not everyone's like that. True. A soft knock on the wall drew their attention to the curtain, where Brandine was standing. Neither teen had heard him come in. Can I come in? Yeah, Brandine. Eric smiled, waving him in. How are you feeling? Brandine asked as he stepped in and rested his hands on Adriana's shoulders. Adriana saw a flicker of something in Eric's eyes, but it disappeared just as quickly. She might have imagined it, but it almost looked like jealousy. Better. Mostly. Eric sighed, staring at his leg still buried under the blankets. If all goes well, I'll have a prosthetic by the end of next week and I can start walking. He gulped. It'll be fine. One step at a time. Eric frowned. That was a terrible joke, Annie. She shrugged indifferently, Brandine's hands jumping with them. Don't be so sensitive. Wow, 2 for 2. Eric shook his head. Brandine rolled his eyes. Weirdos. Anyway, I was wondering if I could talk to you for sec, if that's okay. Adriana looked up at him, directly into his eyes. He had to look straight down to see her. She felt a rush of warmth in her stomach. His eyes were warm as always, but she could see some lingering sadness there. He missed her. She remembered her parents' advice and instantly felt guilty. She looked back at Eric. You don't mind, do you? No, of course not. Eric waved them off with a smile. That weird look was back in his eye though. Go enjoy the fresh air for me. It's cold, you wouldn't like it. Brandine said, taking Adriana's hand as she stood. Eric cocked his head. Why is that? Brandine shrugged. Hot air. The air turned icy when Eric's eyes narrowed and Adriana suddenly found herself in the middle of a standoff. Worst of all, she didn't know what the problem was. Clearly they had issues with each other. What was it? Oh, alright then, I'll come see you in a bit, okay. Adriana broke the silence, gently pushing Brandine back toward the curtain. Don't forget your book. Eric said, an undertone of ice still in his voice. Oh, where we're going, we won't need books. Brandine said, nearly pulling her out of the room. The last thing she heard before the curtain swung shut was Eric's snide remark, bummer. I guess she'll have to come back and see me then. Chapter 25, Road to Redemption. Chapter text. Brandine, slow down. Adriana yelped, dodging a crate at the entry of an alley. What's the hurry? Brandine grinned impishly at her over his shoulder. I want to escape with you now before some man swoops in and takes you away. Oh yes, because I have a history of men swooping in and taking me away, Adriana snorted. Hey, one can't be too careful. Adriana snorted. Too careful makes a boring life. Brandine glanced back at her with a disbelieving look. What? So says the girl that doesn't get out much. Adriana finally pulled her hand loose from his, stopping them in the alley. Huh. His prior excitement gone, Brandine sighed. It's nothing. Try me. Adriana raised an eyebrow. Okay, Brandine folded his hands together in front of his mouth. How do I say this without you going all crazy haddock on me? Crazy haddock. That's what they started calling you guys when you get upset. Especially your dad after that one village meeting. Who boy? Brandine, focus. Totally focused, Princess Brandine snooked. You don't get out much at all. Like, at all. So it's funny hearing you say that a person being too careful is a bad thing. Adriana shrugged. It's not like I don't hang out with people because I'm afraid. We just have different interests. Then you need to either be more interesting, or B, find interests that are common to the group, Brandine said. Why? Adriana frowned. I don't want to hang out with some of those kids on a regular basis. Brandine huffed. I can't live in a box, Adriana. The girl moved back a step. What's that supposed to mean? I'm a social guy, Anna. I get bored, I want to do things. There's nothing wrong with just sitting and talking, or hanging out while you read a book or something, but that seems to be a common occurrence. Brandine said. I'm not saying lose the stuff you like to do, but I am saying you should expand a bit. I want to spend time with you, but you need to be more spontaneous. More spontaneous. Adriana repeated. Yes. Because some of us want to do things a certain way in our lives, and when we have that one friend who's a stick in the mud, we find ourselves in a precarious position. Brandine stepped closer to her. Adriana shook her head. I don't know what exactly you're trying to say. Ah. She gulped. Are you breaking up with me? No. Brandine shook his head wildly, taking her hand. Of course not. But Anna, you've been distant lately. All you've done is read or spend time with Eric, and I've gotten pushed to the sideline. What we have done together in recent weeks hasn't been all that interesting. I want to do things with you, but I'm a social, active guy, I want to do things. And I'd hate for it to come down to people avoiding you because you're not fulfilling their needs. I wouldn't want to lose you because you weren't doing your part. Adriana's heart pounded. It was like that conversation with her dad 2 years ago. If she didn't do what was necessary, she'd be eliminated from the equation. She wouldn't be important. She had to try harder. There was no way around it. She wasn't doing what needed to be done, she didn't have her priorities straight. She had to fix this. I'm sorry, Adriana whispered. I'll do better. Brandine smiled, cupping her face in his hands. I know. He bent down and kissed her firmly. Adriana's stomach flipped. In seconds she felt completely incapacitated under his spell, like a fish out of water couldn't breathe. She couldn't breathe without him. She needed him, and now she saw how much he needed her. She'd been unfair and rude to him for a week. Clearly it had affected him to the point of confrontation, and it was high time she made it up to him. Brandine deepened the kiss, pressing her up against the wall. She sighed into his neck when he moved to her neck, kissing hot and fast against her skin. She pulled against his shoulder. Maybe a little too fast. Brandine pulled away with a sigh. Really? Adriana's face flushed, completely flustered. She felt like she might pass out from pure ecstasy. He'd never kissed her like that before. She swallowed. Sorry. Brandine pursed his lips impatiently, but finally gave her a grudging nod. We'll work on it. She gulped, unsure how to take that comment. Any response was snatched away when a new thought occurred to her. Hey, are you worried about Eric? A strange look appeared in his eyes, like she'd crossed a line. He'll be fine. I know, but I don't mean his leg. Adriana said. Are you worried about us? Brandine tucked a strand of hair behind her ear distractedly. He can't compete with me. Adriana raised an eyebrow. He's not trying to. No. You sure about that? Yes. Adriana said firmly. It was Brandine's turn to raise a skeptical eyebrow. I'm serious, Brandine. My staying with him is out of pure worry and helping him heal. Adriana sighed. He was my best friend since I was 3 and he was 5. We've had so many stupid issues the last few years. He almost died. I couldn't stand it if he was gone and... What would you have done? Brandine asked a little harshly. What can anybody do when bad things happen? It wouldn't have made a difference to him because he would have been dead. But it sure as heck would have made a difference to me because I would have been shoved aside. He didn't die and I was shoved aside. So what do you want me to say? Congrats for fixing your relationship with him while mine. He paused, checking his words. Ours got thrown to the wayside. No. Adriana said quietly. I'm sorry that you felt that way. Honestly, I shouldn't have done that to you. But I promise you, I'm not going to dump you for him. It's not like that. Brandine rolled his eyes. You still don't see it. See what? The way he looks at you, Anna. Brandine scowled, leaning against the wall beside her. Everyone can see it. Why can't you? Adriana swallowed. Even if I believed you, you wouldn't want me to, so why are you bringing it up? Because I want you to be aware, Anna, Brandine remarked. I don't want. He paused to swallow, as if he was nervous. I don't want to lose you. Finally, she realized the connection. He'd lost his father to a murderous scoundrel in a horrific way. It was no surprise that he was protective over those he cared about. It could be any moment that loved ones could be snatched away forever. She of all people understood what fear was. Everyone had a demon that they fought. Like he said, what can anyone do when bad things happen? His father's death was completely out of his control. He didn't want to lose her too. Her heart melted. Adriana bridged the gap between them and wrapped him in a tight hug. She had to stand on her tiptoes to reach past his shoulders. You won't. Me and Eric might be rebuilding our lost friendship, but I'm not going to dump you for him. You have nothing to worry about. I promise. And you know as well as I do that I take my promises very seriously. Brandine seemed to relax. Okay. Thanks. Adriana pressed her lips to his neck, feeling his pulse flutter beneath his skin. For you, anything. Finn couldn't eat. He stared at the table in front of him with his hands clasped in front of his face, steadfastly ignoring every single person in the great hall. The tension in his stomach made him want to throw up. He and his parents had talked for a while after breakfast. Finally they decided he should spend as much time with Hiccup as he could. 1. He had to start making his rounds on apologies. 2. He could tell his dad didn't want him out of his sight. The last thing he wanted was to leave the house, but finally he agreed to tag along. The late morning consisted of walking the village, talking to various people, ignoring glares and hushed whispers as they walked past. Finn wanted to crawl into a hole and die. He wanted to run away. But he didn't. He followed his dad wherever he went and did whatever he was told. He was tired of running. His reunion with Gobber had been received with mixed feelings. First the old blacksmith had grabbed him in a bone-crushing hug, thumped on the back a few times with an angry glare, and then maybe shed a few unmanly tears while yelling incoherently. It took Hiccup a few minutes to calm him down. Word had spread through the village pretty fast regarding his return. But when his father shoved the great hall doors open, nearly every eye had turned to them. Hiccup had straightened, daring anyone to speak up as he led his son to a faraway table. Finn had ducked his head, ignoring everything imaginable. A few loud laughs caught his attention. He looked over in time to see Kale lean across the table and whisper something to Donna, Brandine and Adriana. The red-headed girl cackled and gave him an obnoxious smirk. Brandine spared Finn a short glance, but the mocking disapproval was easy to read in his eyes. Adriana gave Cale a withering gaze and said something that made Brandine spit his drink in laughter. Finn faced the table, running a hand over his face. He hated everything. You should try to eat something. Hiccup said softly from the seat across from him. Finn shook his head. I can't. Hiccup tapped his cup against the table. When was the last time you ate? Finn didn't reply. Another cackle of laughter erupted from nearby and he buried his face, feeling it flush beneath his hands. Finn. Dad, why am I in here? I can't do this. Look at me. Finn took a shuddering breath and removed one hand, shamefully hiding his face from the other kids. His dad's eyes were filled with compassion though. He jutted his cup toward the kids. They're not important. Except your sister. Don't worry about them. Dad, I'm the talk of the village. This is why I wanted to stay home. I know. Hiccup nodded. But you have a lot of guts showing your face out here in public, even if it is humiliating. If those kids were in your shoes, they wouldn't have that kind of strength. They don't even look guilty for the stuff they did. Finn chanced a glare at Cale. Hiccup sat forward. That's the catch, isn't it? The difference is your character. Some of these kids don't care what they do. They'll serve the time for their punishments, but it won't make a difference. They are destined to be sad, lonely people. Finn swallowed at the thought. But you, his dad continued. I know true remorse when I see it, Finn. I know you want to change. All you need is guidance. Finn nodded miserably. So guide me. What do you want me to do? Hiccup smiled. Do you know why I brought you in here? I trust it wasn't to be cruel. Come on, there's always a method to my madness. The chief smirked. No, the reason I hand clapped him on the shoulder and instantly his focus was on the man whispering something into his ear. Oh, no, that's fine. If you could inform Snotlout and Fishlegs on that would be great. Thanks. Hiccup turned back to his son and continued as if he hadn't been interrupted. I brought you in here because I wanted you to see all this. All of, what? The people whispering and staring at me. Partially. Look around the room, Finn. Don't focus on the gossip. What do you see? Finn turned in his seat and scanned the room. Nearly every seat in the hall was filled. Children ran through the aisles, chasing terrible terrors. A few kitchen hands bustled through the room carrying mugs or plates of food to take to the elderly who couldn't stand in line. Cooks were working hurriedly to get more food on 2 platters. Mothers consoling or doting on their children, like Svala and Ava. Fathers keeping their children in line. Various councilmen gathered at tables, deep in discussion about Thor knew what. People. Finn said. Lots of people. Exactly, Hiccup nodded, turning to face the hall openly. Look at them all. Every single one of them looks at us for guidance. Me, your mom, even you and Adriana. They are watching all of us. Why would people want guidance from me or Anna? Because you're the future leaders of Berk, Hiccup said. Even if your sister doesn't become chief one day, she still has a big role to play. She doesn't know that yet. They are watching how you respond to problems, how your leadership skills are, how you treat people. Finn looked at his dad. They are judging your character. And when the time comes, if they don't think you're fit for the job, you might not get it. Or keep it. Finn nodded in understanding. Just because it's a birthright doesn't make it a right. Right. Hiccup rubbed his neck. I won't lie to you, Finn. This is hard. I have to know every single one of these people's problems because to them it's important. Even if I have to delegate and send someone else to do the work, I still have to remember it. I have to get back to them and tell them the results. I have to be patient when little things get brought up repeatedly and I have so many other things going on. Like when we were kids, Mildew always nagging my dad about his cabbages. Seriously, you're going to bug Stoic the Vast about your stupid cabbages every day when he's got 100 other things going on. Finn laughed a little. Yeah. Speaking of Mildew. His house was the hideout. Already taken care of, Hiccup waved a hand. But you see my point. Yeah. I guess I didn't make your life easier. I'm sorry. It's over now, buddy. Your mother and I have forgiven you. Hiccup reached over and squeezed his shoulder. Now here's the problem, you've upset a lot of people in here. You've broken a lot of trust. What do you suppose you should do now to make it right? Finn swallowed. Apologize. Yes, but what else? Finn searched his adult brain for a response. First, fix those broken relationships. Hiccup said. I know there are a few that are worth salvaging. Finn thought of Eric and Adriana. He was sure there had to be a few more. Second, rebuild trust. The chief said. Some people are forgiving by nature, like me. If someone is truly repentant, I can't stay mad. But others are going to take time. Like Anna. Like Anna, yes. She needs proof that you're different, that you want to change. We Vikings are stubborn after all. There's going to be a handful of people in here that aren't going to be too happy with you for a long, long time. Great. Finn sighed. If you want people to trust you, Finn, you have to rebuild that trust. Whether it takes you 2 weeks or 2 years to rebuild that trust, it will be worth it in the end because you will have earned their respect. Am I right? Finn nodded fervently. Whatever I have to do. I want to make things right. That will be up to them. So, to make things easier for you, Hiccup reached into a pocket in his suit with a smirk. I compiled a list of all the people you've upset one way or another. Or Dad. Now, this is purely to keep you on track. I don't want you to forget someone and then there's a feud I have to break up later on because someone got bent out of shape. Your son apologized to them but not me. I've got a real bone to pick with you, Chief. Naya. No, thank you. Hiccup slid the paper across the table with finality. Finn snorted and shook his head at his father's sassing. He always forgot just how goofy his dad could be. He smoothed out the list of names. This is random, but you were saying something to me and that guy interrupted you. Finn said, looking up from the list. Hiccup's face was impassive. You gave him your full attention, responded, and then turned back to me as if there'd been no interruption. How'd you do that? Hiccup chuckled. You learn to think in multiple strings, if that makes sense. No. Okay then, Hiccup sighed. Like I said, I've got a million things going on. For instance, there's a winter storm rolling in later today. So this morning we got the ships brought in, half the barns closed up, yaks and sheep brought in, storm doors down to protect the dragon pens. But in the meantime I've delegated the final harvesting jobs to Snotlout and Fish Legs. That gentleman told me about the final fish counts, so I guided him to the other men. Your mom's boarding up the arena before she reports back to me. Then there's keeping tabs on Eric, Toughnut and Svala's house to make sure it's stable enough for a new storm because I'm paranoid, keeping an eye on your sister and her boyfriend. Okay. Finn waved his hands. To sum up, you delegate and keep a to-do list in your head. Hiccup shrugged. Something like that. Eesh. I should let you be chief for a day. My dad did something like that once. Ah, really? Yeah. It's a lot harder than you think. But you'll do well one day. Finn frowned. But Anna's in line now. For now. Hiccup said while studying his daughter from afar. Finn heard her laughing but kept his eyes on his dad. I'll make it up to her. Finn said determinedly. Hiccup raised his eyebrows. I mean it. She doesn't deserve this. It's not what she wants. I know that, Finn. Hiccup sighed. I'm very aware of what she needs and doesn't need. But I also know what's best for you, and right now, the best thing for you is prioritizing. He tapped the list. One thing at a time. Addie will come around. How do you know? Because you're going to fix things. You're my strong little man. You always pull through. Finn smiled sheepishly and pocketed the paper. He drew in a deep breath and looked at a certain blonde in the crowd. Well. Best get started then. Hiccup smiled proudly. Good man. Thanks, Dad. Finn jumped out of his seat and began walking away. Pausing, he walked back and gave Hiccup a weirdly angled hug from behind. Love you. Hiccup laughed and patted his arm. I love you too, bud. I'll be hanging around. Try to eat something. Okay, okay. Finn turned and walked back into the crowd. Oh, wasn't that sweet, Donna drawled. Kale snickered cruelly. For once, Finn didn't feel a bit awkward about the hug in front of so many people, and he wasn't ashamed. His father loved him despite his actions. He loved his father. There was no shame in that. He wouldn't run from it. He turned and looked at Donna like she had two heads. When's the last time you were genuinely cared about, Donna? Donna's face reddened as the other kids gaped. Even Brandine stared up at him. Finn. Adriana gasped. What? Finn asked indifferently. I'm sorry about a lot of things and I will gladly apologize. But if there's a single person on this island who I owe everything to, it's that man right there. Don't patronize me. Brandine shook his head. You've got a lot to learn if you think cutting other people down is the way to making people stop. Finn shrugged. So I'll learn. But you're not exactly sticking up for anybody either, are you? Don't get all high and mighty with me. Okay, Finn, we get it. Adriana said tersely. Finn opened his mouth, then thought better of it. Exhaling heavily, he turned and walked away. He imagined the looks on their faces on him turning down an argument. He never backed down from an argument. He especially never let his sister talk him down. He focused back on the blonde girl talking to Taryn and some other girls. He marched up their circle and gently tapped Helga on the shoulder. She turned and her eyes widened. Hi. Finn said nervously. Can I talk to you? Privately. Helga bit her lip, glancing at Taryn. The girl gave her an encouraging smile and nodded gently. Helga sighed and nodded, leading her way to the door. Finn nodded gratefully at Taryn and followed her outside. They stopped at the edge of the stairs between two pillars. Helga crossed her arms and stared at the ground. You wanted to talk? Yeah. Finn shoved his hands in his pockets. Shoot. He hadn't actually thought through what he wanted to say. He gulped. He stared at his shoes. Spit it out, Finn. What do you want? Helga asked, a hint of anger in her voice. If you dare try to ask for me back, I'll break your nose. What? No. Finn shook his head. No, Steeling himself, he looked her in the eye and said, I'm sorry. For everything. I was a jerk, I was abusive and mean and... He looked down, his eyes burning. And I hurt you. Physically and emotionally. I shouldn't have done that to my friend. Can you ever forgive me? Helga's eyes were wide, brimming with tears. We don't have to talk or even see each other if you don't want to. Finn wiped his face with a wrist. I just don't want to live knowing I never apologized. Helga shook her head. Or Finn. She stepped forward and pulled him into a hug. He hadn't been expecting it at all. Once again he'd expected to be slapped for his crimes. Of course, I forgive you. Helga said through her tears. I don't deserve it. Finn said into her shoulder. Nobody ever does. We'll fix this though. Helga stepped back. We'll get you back on track. No. Finn rubbed his face. There is no back on track. Things are torn down. Now it's rebuilding. Oh. Helga nodded. Well, it's a process then. It probably won't be easy. No. It won't. But I'll do whatever I have to do. Finn looked at her. Can I do anything for you? Helga lightly rolled her eyes and smiled. Talk to me. Finn smiled. Yeah. I can do that. Helga hugged him once again. I'm glad you're back. When word got around that you weren't coming back ever, I was really worried. And sad. Sorry. I won't do it again. Helga stepped back and punched his arm. You'd better not. She nodded to the Great Hall. Do you want to sit with us? Finn shook his head. Thanks, but there's someone else I need to talk to. Helga smiled knowingly and nodded. Come find me if you need a friend. Will do. Thanks Helga. Finn watched her go back inside and exhaled. He scratched Helga off his mental list. He turned toward the open village and sighed. The next apology would be the hardest for him to swallow. Eric wasn't sure if he should be elated or confused. Not only had his mother apologized to him, but she'd also spent the entire morning with him and hadn't stopped talking almost the whole time. She was still his mom, of course. A little brash at times, but he could tell she was trying. It seemed his contest with death shook her up a bit. He finished another beaded bracelet as she chatted about something the ladies were doing later on when they heard Mara exclaim loudly from outside the curtain. The Larsens listened intently to her hushed whispers. After nearly 2 minutes, Eric went back to his bracelet. Whoever had entered the healers clearly wanted to have a hushed conversation with the dark-haired woman. He didn't much care. But then he heard Mara sigh in resignation, fine. He's in there, but don't touch him or I'll rip your fingers off. Eric eyed the curtain suspiciously when it rustled. A 15-year-old boy emerged and stood in the doorway, and his breath hitched. Finn. Dots danced in his vision for a moment. A flash and he could see the mill, the other teen attacking him. His newly severed leg panged in agony. Then he saw his room, but his mother was looming over him. Eric. Honey, can you hear me? Eric shakily nodded, wiping the sweat off his forehead. Is he okay? Finn asked. Get out. Lara hissed. He was fine until you walked in. No, Mom, it's fine. Eric managed. He tried to look at Finn, but couldn't for more than a second. Fine. You look like you just lost a pint of blood. Eric's stomach turned. See, can we not talk about that please? Lara frowned. What? Blood. She winced and scowled at Finn. Oh. I think you should go. Finn stepped back. I can come back. No, you can stay away. Eric grabbed his mom's wrist. No. Finn, don't go. He looked up at his mom firmly. Mom, I'm fine. Really? We need to talk. Can you get me some tea or something please? Lara pursed her lips. He could see she understood his request to be alone with Finn. But would she allow it? She regally stared at the Haddock boy, who remained in the same spot by the curtain. Fine. I'll give you some time alone. But call me if you need me. Okay. Lara gave Finn one last glare before exiting and swishing the curtain closed with finality. Finn swallowed and slowly looked at him. Eric felt a flare of panic rise in his chest, but he stamped it down. You can sit wherever you want. Finn slowly walked to the nearest stool and sat down. His eyes darted to the blanket covering Eric's leg, and he felt his face rise with heat. He wasn't sure what to feel in front of the boy who'd inadvertently caused the accident. After a few minutes of quiet, Finn cleared his throat. I think we got off on the wrong foot. Eric cocked his head in surprise. Finn's eyes widened. No, wait. Oh Thor, that's not what I wanted to say. Eric smirked and shook his head. Oh Haddocks. Ah. Finn ran his hands through his hair. If I'm honest, Eric winced as he sat up more. We got off on a lot of wrong feet. There were a lot of problems. Finn nodded miserably. Even though the scene kept replaying in his head every time he looked at the other boy, Eric knew the look on Finn's face. Self-loathing. Guilt. I did this to you. Finn whispered. What's done is done. I can't get it back. Eric said quietly. No, but I still did it. I was so messed up and I took it out on you and Anna and my parents. Finn said in a thick voice. He swallowed hard. I don't know if there's anything I can do to make it up to you, but I am so sorry. I'm a monster. You didn't deserve this and I never should have dragged you into the gang or any of it. I'm so sorry. Since the accident, Eric could feel the pulse of his heart beat in the center of his severed leg. He wasn't sure how that was possible, but it was like beating a drum in a continuous, heated mass of mottled flesh. Even though he was on the road to healing, he felt like he could still feel the entire thing. Seeing Finn in the same room as him made him want to curl into a ball and cry. Mara and Adriana had said his only nightmares had taken place during fitful fevers before he'd woken up. He hadn't had any flashbacks. Finn was a trigger. He was hard to look at, so he focused on details of the teen's face rather than his wide blue eyes. He couldn't erase them from his memory. But he couldn't tell him either. Finn was repentant, he hadn't wanted this. He'd never seen Finn look so remorseful about anything in his entire life. He couldn't push him away, even if it caused him pain. Eric slowly exhaled, calming his nerves. I know you are. That's why I haven't thrown you out yet. I know it was an accident. Finn bit his lip. You should be pressing charges or something. Eric smirked and shook his head. I'm going to be cooped up in here long enough. When I get out, I'm not spending the first 3 weeks in Great Hall meetings. Finn gulped. So? I forgive you, Finn. I know things have been hard for you. It's been hard for me too. I wasn't on a great path myself until recently. Eric said. He thought for a moment before pulling back his shirt sleeves. Finn's eyes widened at the dark healing gashes on his forearms. I didn't know it was that bad. You suspected though, didn't you? Finn winced. Yeah. But, not that many. Eric crossed his arms across his chest and thought. We're a lot alike, you know. We can't relate in every way, but we've had hard losses. We've experienced things that most kids haven't. Plus your parents have shown both of us tons of love to help us with our problems. What do you say we put these differences aside and be friends already? Finn visibly relaxed. Do you want me to do anything? Yes. Eric smirked. I want you to give me a hug. Finn laughed. Oh fine, if I must. Leaning forward, he embraced Eric like a brother. Differences aside. We're starting over right now. Eric said firmly. Finn nodded. You got it. Pulling back, he wiped his eyes and sighed. Eric settled against his pillows. Let it hereby be known that today I have made fearless Finn cry. Finn snorted. You kidding? I don't think I've stopped crying all week. Yeah, I feel you're there. So, how is it? Finn nodded to his leg. Eric winced. It's okay. Can't wait for this stupid storm to blow over. Finn looked down at his lap. So you, I get twinges before and during storms. Yes. Eric said, slowly. Part of the fun of being an amputee. But Hiccup says I'll get used to it. Do you think you will? I hope so. Eric exhaled as the pain ebbed. Lara came bustling back into the room carrying 2 mugs of hot tea. I trust you've said what you needed to say. What? Oh yeah. Finn nodded. I'll just go. You don't have to. Eric called as Finn left his seat. I do. Finn shrugged, noting that Lara had intentionally not made him any tea. I guess. I'll come back. Sure. I've got to do something to stave off the boredom. Eric patted a stack of books, including a haphazardly placed sketchbook. You'd probably rather see my sister. Finn waved a hand. I mean I guess I would, but we've been best friends since we were little, so that's nothing person. Eric shrugged. Don't you have somewhere to be? Asked Lara impatiently. Yes. Later, CK. Finn waved once before exiting out of the curtain and running into a small person with dark hair. Whoa, sorry. Inga. Finn raised an eyebrow at the younger girl. What are you doing here? Are you and Eric friends now? Shouldn't I be the one asking you what you're doing here? Inga crossed her arms. I thought you were gone forever. Well, I was. I mean I was going to. But then I came back. Finn clapped his hands awkwardly. So, yeah. Oh. Okay. Inga rolled her eyes and tried to push him aside so she could enter through the curtain. Wait. Finn held out his hands. Hey, I just wanted to apologize for how I treated you. I shouldn't have acted like your problem is the only reason anyone should be nice to you. And I'm sorry I made fun of your hair. It's really nice short. You should keep it. He stared into Inga's arctic blue eyes, hoping that she would accept his apology as had Erik and Helga. She looked surprised, though he supposed he should expect that. Okay. Inga said about a very tense silence. Can I check on Erik now? Wait, do you work here? Finn asked as he stepped aside. Yes. Inga nodded once before brushing past him. She stopped just before entering the curtained area and turned back to him. Mark my words, fearless Finn, cross the line again and I'll take you down so fast, you won't know what hit you. Finn felt the corners of his mouth turn up in a smile. He hadn't realized how much he had missed Inga's sass until now. Well spoken, he nodded. Inga smirked. Good, she said before ducking out of sight through the curtain. Finn's smile remained on his face until he had arrived at the front door. As soon as he pulled it open, a blast of freezing air caught him off guard. The storm Erik and his father had felt was here. The Haddock boy marveled at how quickly the storm had struck. Pulling his coat closer to his body, he trotted toward the center of the village. He watched his father and Toothless fly past, calling down to various people to get inside and close their doors. Finn looked around for Thornado, wishing to fly home instead of walk. It took him a few laps through the streets, but he finally found his dragon sitting on the cliffside, staring into the distance. Thornado! Finn called, reaching his side. Come on man, it's cold. Let's go home. The Thunderdrum eyed him warily, snorted and faced the ocean again. It seemed to Finn that the dragon was still miffed at being dragged across the entire archipelago without much say in the matter. Finn sighed and knelt beside his dragon. Thornado, I'm sorry to you too. I wasn't fair to you and I haven't been a friend to you either. I don't want you to be mad at me. Thornado grunted stiffly. Still he watched the open waters. Finn watched his dragon carefully. The large blue beast seemed to stare out at the open expanse with longing. He didn't want to go inside away from the cold. It seemed he wanted to embrace it. He wanted freedom. The teenager swallowed hard and rested a hand on his dragon's side. Thornado, do you want to go? The dragon finally turned to him. He still looked peeved, but he always looked peeved. Thornado gave him a silent nod before pressing his nose into the boy's hand. Finn's eyes welled up with tears. He didn't want his friend to go. Despite being forgiven by the few people he'd apologized to, he felt like his previous actions had done more damage to his dragon friend. Thornado had always been there. He'd been his Poppy's dragon. He'd been Finn's first flight, even before Toothless. He could remember sitting in front of his Poppy, Thornado's blue scales glistening beneath him and the wind whipping his hair against his scalp. He remembered the freeing sensation of flying for the first time as a 4-year-old boy. And now, 11 years later, his dragon was leaving him. He understood though. He knew what it was like to feel trapped, pressured. Slavery alone had taught him that some things could be stifling. Slaves can't leave whenever they want. But Thornado wasn't his slave. Thornado was his friend. Finn sniffed, but held both his hands on his dragon's face. I release you. Thank you for always being there and for being my friend. I'm sorry for everything. I guess I'm not as good as your first rider. Thornado's expression softened and he gently rumbled under Finn's palms. He stepped forward and nuzzled his scaly face into Finn's chest. The teenager embraced his dragon for the last time. Finally, he stood and stepped back, wiping his face. Will I see you again? Thornado seemed to smile, even in his own grumpy way. He nodded once as if to say of course, little man. Goodbye, Thornado. Thornado stretched his wings, roared a final time and launched into the air. Finn stood at the cliffside, watching as his dragon flew away from Berk. He quickly became a little blue speck on the horizon. Eventually, he winked out of view into the distance. Finn's throat tightened. He felt like his actions had once again ruined a lifelong relationship, and this time, it couldn't be fixed. Thornado was gone. A firm hand rested on his shoulder and squeezed. Finn turned toward his dad with teary eyes. Hiccup gave him a compassionate smile. You did the right thing. Finn nodded and dropped his forehead onto his dad's shoulder. Hiccup hugged him tight, adding, we'll get you a new dragon. It will be fine. Finn sighed and shook his head. I don't need a new dragon. I can't even take care of myself. I don't deserve one. He felt his dad pause, but finally he agreed. You're right. There's no rush. Finn felt a little sad when Hiccup released his arms and squeezed his shoulders. It'll happen when you're ready. Finn nodded miserably, feeling cold, weak and tired physically and mentally. He wanted nothing more than to curl up in his bed with 4 blankets and just sleep. Sensing his crashing spirits, his dad wrapped an arm around his shoulders and led him toward Toothless waiting nearby. Come on. Let's go home. You've earned some soup and rest. Not hungry. Not yet. Hiccup insisted as Finn slid into the saddle. Take him home, bud. I'll be there shortly. Wait, you're not coming? Finn asked. What are you going to do? Peek in on Eric and take care of a few other things. Well, you take Toothless, I can double you. You're not walking. Hiccup said firmly. I'll be fine. You're white as a sheet, Finn. I want you to go home, eat, and rest. Finn realized how cold and tired he was. He wasn't hungry at all, but he suspected that if he ate even a little soup he might become ravenous. Finally, he nodded. Okay. Good man. Hiccup smiled. Take him home, bud. Tell your mom I'll be there soon. Okay. Finn crouched low for Toothless to take off. They shot into the air and his dad shrunk in seconds. He vaguely wondered if his dad had ever gotten whiplash from a takeoff before. Probably. Finn felt his resolve crashing as he looked out at the ocean. This would probably be his last flight for a long, long time. He had a long way to go, so many relationships to fix, apologies to make, people to placate, damages to repair. He knew his journey to restoration was just beginning, and it wouldn't be over for a long, long time. Chapter 26, Zap. Chapter text. Much like the mighty Night Fury, time had a tendency to move at extreme speeds. Finn could have sworn it hadn't been very long since he returned home. And yet the village moved on, many people accepting his heartfelt apologies and almost as many refusing to look in his direction as they walked by. The boy knew it would be a long time before he regained their trust. Before he knew it, a week had passed and things were just beginning to settle. Eric had been fitted with a prosthetic and was learning to walk again. Kale and Free continued with their community service projects. Finn had returned to work alongside Brandine, who he was surprised to find was almost as hard a worker as he was. His parents were more affectionate than ever. There was always a hot meal when he got home after a long day of work. Astrid had even drawn him a warm bath after his first day back. Hiccup had tidied up his room. The boy had warm welcome at home, even if a certain blonde still gave him the cold shoulder. Finn awoke to hear his parents talking in hushed voices as they left the house for separate engagements. His head throbbed, mostly because he still wasn't completely caught up on sleep, but he sat up. His first instinct, as it had been every morning since he returned, was to seek out some fish to feed his hungry dragon. But then the sinking feeling enveloped him as he remembered that his dragon was Thornua in the archipelago. Probably much happier now that he was away from his errant owner. The thought made the haddock boy want to curl into a ball and cry. He had felt much more emotionally vulnerable since returning, heck, since leaving. Kicking off his blankets, he shivered as he changed into his day clothes. Hiccup was going to have to rig up his heating system soon or the haddocks would freeze to death overnight. Finn padded down the stairs and was relieved to see a fire already crackling in the fireplace. It gave him the sudden urge to relax on the couch and fall asleep again. Adriana would surely think he was crazy to crash on the couch until a reasonable hour. Suddenly, he had an idea. He hurtled over and dug through the pantry as quietly as he could. He certainly didn't have anything more important to do this morning. He could put his excellent cooking skills to use and prepare breakfast for himself and his sister. He pulled out a mixing bowl, where he threw together the ingredients for Adriana's favorite breakfast, usually reserved for special occasions. The house was filled with the pleasant aroma of frying bacon, scrambled eggs, and chocolate pancakes. If Hiccup had fixed up the heating system, Finn knew the scent would be pumped directly into Adriana's room, which would definitely wake her up in a hurry. It seemed like an eternity until she finally descended the staircase in her pink nightgown and fuzzy slippers. Her eyes widened as she watched Finn scoop copious amounts of scrambled eggs mixed with fresh bacon onto a plate already occupied with chocolate pancakes. Finn grinned. "Morning, sleepyhead," he called, holding out a plate. "I made breakfast." "I see that," Adriana said shortly. Finn almost laughed at the dilemma that must be going on inside her head right now. On the one hand, she loved food almost as much as he did and she almost never had a breakfast this good. On the other hand, she couldn't carry her food away from Finn without it getting cold quickly in the drafty upstairs or blustery day outside. She was going to have to eat in the main room and that meant talking to Finn. "Come on, sis." Finn smirked and attempted to wave the pleasant aroma in Adriana's direction. "You know you want it." Adriana bit her lip but finally conceded. She sauntered over to her brother and took the plate from his hands. "There you go. And you're welcome for what may be the best breakfast you've ever had." Finn mock bowed to her. Her mouth turned up in a half smile. "Don't push it, Finnegan. Wouldn't dream of it." Finn sat down on the hard chair closer to the fireplace and nodded to the couch. "Go on, sit down. I know you don't like dining alone." Adriana sighed. "I guess." She slowly walked over to the couch, eyeing Finn like he might be an imposter. Finn gave her an exaggerated friendly smile. She rolled her eyes and sat down. The fearless Finn I remember would sprawl out on the comfy seat and get irrationally annoyed when someone else wanted to sit down, she stated, staring at her food as if it was a fascinating book. Finn let out a nervous laugh. "Yeah. Dumb kid, that Finn." Adriana suddenly looked up. "How do I know this repentance thing isn't just another ploy for attention?" Finn's eyebrows jumped into his bangs. He hadn't expected her to ask the hard questions so soon. "I guess you can't know unless I prove it," he admitted. "It's just." She put down her fork and looked directly into his eyes. It was a bit intimidating. "A month ago, you were vandalizing the town and insulting Dad to his face and everything. Now you're hugging him in public and crying in front of people and apologizing for everything." Finn rather thought she was answering her own question, but he knew the consequences would be dire if he vocalized that particular thought. "How do I know you're not doing this to make it even more painful for them when you suddenly turn and are worse than before?" Finn stared at her with wide eyes. He honestly hadn't even considered that line of thought. "Well, to be honest, I'm not smart enough to come up with a plan that underhand or ingenious." Adriana breathed a laugh. "Apparently. I probably would have done it, come to think of it." Finn felt sick in the pit of his stomach at the thought. "Make it hurt more." "Sounds like me." "So how do I know you're not?" Adriana pressed. "I wish I had some kind of proof, Anna. I wish I could let you in my head so you could feel how sorry I am and how much I want to make it up to everyone," Finn said, his chest constricting. "And I wish you'd give me a chance." Adriana pursed her lips and stared down at her food. "I've been a really good sister, all things considered." Finn didn't know how she was going to respond to that request, but he certainly hadn't expected such an off-topic statement. He raised an eyebrow. "Okay. You were born first, you had the birthright. And did I ever, even once, get jealous of that? Did I ever complain that you got the attention and had the important job and I didn't? Did I get depressed because your name was going to go down in history and mine wasn't going to be more than a footnote?" Adriana asked him. No." Finn shook his head. "But I thought you didn't want to." "Right, I didn't." Adriana interrupted him. "And you're lucky for that. What if I had? What if it had been a power struggle from the beginning? What if I resented you for being born first? What if we'd both been boys and got into fist fights about it all the time? Did you ever think about that, fearless Finn? Did it ever occur to you how lucky you are not to have to deal with that?" Finn felt like he'd been punched in the chest. Of course it hadn't occurred to him. In all that time as the heir, as the child the villagers respected as their future chief, he'd never once considered that someone else might have been jealous of that title. That his own sister could have desired it too. That there would come a day when his parents would have to choose one over the other. How difficult would that situation have been? Twins, born mere minutes apart, vying for the most powerful position on Berk. It would have been a nightmare. He couldn't imagine his twin hating him for something he couldn't even control. Trista killed because of that power struggle, and he could have had that same situation right in his own home. Wow, Finn shook his head. I didn't think about that. Maybe you should have before you left us. Adriana said sharply. Maybe you should have considered that I have my own hopes and dreams too, which I built up over a lifetime of not being the heir, and they were shattered because you almost didn't come back. And they might still be if this is all some stupid act. Finn opened his mouth but no sound came out. Don't you get it? What you do affects everything for this village and this family. If you think Mom and Dad have all the power, you're not paying attention. Anna, I'm really sorry. Finn breathed, hit with sudden emotion again. You're right. Benen used to say everything had a ripple effect, like a stone dropped into a pond, but I wasn't even paying attention when I was flying off, and I didn't think that would affect you so much. No. You didn't. Adriana shook her head. And I'm upset with you. But. She sighed. I won't always be. Finn perked up. Wait, so. I want to forgive you, Finn. Adriana told him earnestly. And I sort of do now, but I don't feel like I do. But I don't want to stay mad. So what do you want? I want my brother back. She gave him a half smile as she thought about it. I want to laugh out loud at the silly things you do and call you stupid names and do things normal siblings do. So you want to just hang out? Finn smiled. I'm down with that. Not all the time. Adriana continued. But yeah. We were best friends when we were little. And I know we're really different now and we don't have to be super close, but oh gods, I don't know, I just want something more than this. Me too. Finn said. Mom and Dad'll be shocked right out of their saddles if they come home to us loving on each other. Right. Adriana laughed. We used to team up on them sometimes. I remember, I ran one way and you ran the other, and our parents had to split up to catch us for our baths. And you'd scream when they caught you. Finn nearly spat out his orange juice at the memory. You remember that time you tried to convince them we didn't have a bathtub? Gods, I forgot about that. Do you remember when you got hyped up on sugar and ran around the living room like a maniac? Yeah. I couldn't stop laughing. Mom started tickling me. And then Dad nearly ran into you and you wiped out. Adriana sighed deeply, a genuine smile on her face. Good times. What happened? For you, Eric. For me, probably the realization that I could roughhouse a lot harder with the other boys. And Helga. She was tough. She was. Finn agreed. But you used to cry when I tackled you and pulled your hair. It hurt. Adriana rubbed her scalp. But I wish we'd done more together. We can now. Finn tossed a piece of bacon at her. That was pathetic, Finnegan. Adriana rolled her eyes and grabbed a piece of bacon off her plate. Watch and learn. She tossed it at him and he caught it in his mouth. Most impressive. You couldn't do it. Finn teased. I could. Adriana opened her mouth. Finn tossed another piece of bacon at her, which bounced off her nose. She snorted with laughter and caught the second piece in her mouth. Guess we're tied, she announced. Yep. Finn picked up another piece of bacon. Just how mad do you think Mom would be if she saw us doing this? Very. Adriana giggled, suppressing a hiccup. And Dad would want to join us until he saw her glaring. Ha, yes. Finn lurched forward but the bacon bounced off his chin. He'd probably win too. Lily sauntered into the main room, yawning and stretching. Adriana tossed her a piece of bacon, which she easily caught. Finn suddenly let out a shout of laughter. You remember that time Lily set the drapes on fire, he chortled. Adriana snickered. Yeah, Mom was chasing her around the house with a broom while Dad put out the fire. She was freaking out too, wasn't she? New then. Then they made her go outside. Yeah, then she wailed to be let back in, but they wouldn't let her until she learned her lesson. Adriana patted her dragon's nose affectionately. But she learned it. That she did. Finn agreed. Are you ever going to get a new dragon? Adriana asked him. Eventually. Finn felt a pang of sadness at the reminder, but he shoved it down. But I don't want to push it. I want him to trust me. And I want a fresh start. It's a good feeling, Adriana said as she cooed and scratched Lily's chin. Lily flopped to the floor and rolled onto her back. Careful, girl, she added as Lily's tail came extremely close to knocking over the hat stand. Please, wouldn't be the first time a dragon's knocked that over. Finn grinned. Toothless puked on it once, remember? That was gross. Adriana nodded. All four of us crammed into Binen's house that night because it reeked. That's when we found out, he snored. Finn smiled, but he felt tears brimming at his eyelids. He never believed us. Finn, are you crying? Adriana stopped rubbing Lily's belly to focus on him. Sorry, whenever I get to thinking about Binen lately, I can't help it. Finn sniffed and wiped his eyes. I don't mean to, I miss him. Adriana leaned forward and wiped his tears with a napkin. I miss him too. I miss his treats and the way he used to laugh so hard, not caring what people thought. Yeah. Finn nodded. He never did hold back. Adriana patted the couch next to her and Finn tentatively sat down. The twins stared wistfully into the fire, both thinking about their friend and how much he had meant to them. Finn wiped his eyes again as his tears finally subsided. A part of him was slightly frustrated that he was only now allowing himself to grieve over Binen. He had pushed it down for nearly 2 years, but here it was, almost as raw as it had been just after it had happened. His heart ached horribly at the memories still surfacing in his mind, but he was beginning to envy his sister. She had cried it out just after it had happened. He remembered hearing her sobbing in her room for weeks afterward. If only he had grieved too. Perhaps he would have it together by now the way she did. I used to think you were a dumb little weakling, Finn admitted after a while of reflective silence. But you're not. You're one of the strongest people I know. Adriana breathed a laugh. I doubt that. No, really. Finn nudged her, making her smile. You've gone to hell and back and you still love and trust people. You still give them everything you've got. You get used to it. Adriana shrugged. When you've been hurt like that, you learn to see the best in people. Because most of them aren't out to get you. Yeah, but you took it so well after Binen died. I mean, you were sad, you cried, you locked yourself in your room with your books a few times, but then you just got over it. Finn gritted his teeth together so the tears wouldn't come back. How did you do it? How come you figured out how to move on and I just regressed? Because you get angry about things, Adriana stated. And it was sudden and horrible and happened for no reason. And it hurt. I guess because I know that bad things happen to good people, but you have it in your head that if you work hard enough, things like that won't happen at all. You were never angry. Of course I was. Adriana nodded. I was furious. I was angry that it happened, I was angry that I didn't get any warning, that Binen died before I was even able to say goodbye. I went through that. I didn't lash out though. I wrote it down. Maybe you could too. Maybe. Finn put down his empty plate. So what are you up to? Babysitting Ava this evening. I was going to help Eric walk today. Shouldn't you be at the forge? Half day. Finn shrugged. Gobber wanted to show Brandine something. Probably best that I'm not in the way. Want to come help Eric walk? Adriana asked. We're all getting together to cheer him on. Mara thinks he might be able to walk without help today. Truthfully, the last thing Finn felt like doing was watching Eric suffer through learning to walk again, but he nodded. He was going to have to get used to this new reality. Cool. I'll get dressed and we'll head right over. Adriana handed her plate to Finn. I trust you know how to do the dishes. Very funny. Finn stuck his tongue out at her. I might be able to figure it out with my pea-sized brain. Adriana patted the top of his head. Good boy. She laughed at the withering look he gave her and pounded up the stairs. Finn grinned as he collected the dishes and scrubbed them off in the barrel of water near the back door. He hadn't thought it would be so easy to convince his sister to forgive him. He knew they would still bicker sometimes, all siblings did, but he couldn't help but hope that he would be able to make up for lost time. He truly was lucky to have a sister like her. He only hoped that she was just as lucky to have him as a brother. Cliff didn't think he would have nearly as much fun with best friend who was forced to stay in one place as he did with Eric. The two of them played games together, got into ridiculous debates, and even bantered with Inga a fair few times when she was around. She usually won such silly bantering sessions with her quick wit and copious amounts of sass that could only come from the Jorgensen blood running through her veins. If he didn't know that Inga was Finn's future bride, Cliff might have been attracted to such a strong personality. The Smedley boy had made a record 3 female friends in the short week since Finn's return home. Inga was the first, of course. Then there had been the much tamer Taryn, who was very sweet and always laughed at his jokes. He liked a girl who thought he was funny. Finally, he and Adriana had gotten to know each other very well. She was almost as witty as Inga and sarcastic enough to do her Haddock heritage justice. Her dry humor was nearly lost on him, but it was quite entertaining to watch her and Eric snick at each other. He had once thought her to be a melancholy, tragic heroine kind of person. He was pleasantly surprised to find that she enjoyed silly conversations and banter. And with Hiccup and Astrid showing up every few hours, Cliff had never had the opportunity to get to know such fascinating people. Eric's walking had improved since he received his prosthetic. He winced when he put any weight on his stump, but he had managed to walk across the room and back with minimal support. Today was the day Cliff had been looking forward to for the last few days. All of his friends had an open schedule, so they were going to meet up to help Eric walk and cheer him on. Eric was truly blessed to have so many supportive friends. Cliff could only hope they would come to love him as much as they loved the youngest Larson. Up you go. Cliff chirped as he helped Eric out of the wheelchair. Don't want to look lazy in front of your posse. I will get up if you stop calling them a posse. Eric smirked at him. We're not out lassoing horses or getting ourselves locked in a poorly guarded prison. You read too many weird books. Cliff commented as he helped Eric strap on the prosthetic. You need to get out more. That's why I'm trying to walk again, Cliff. Eric narrowed his eyes at his friend. So I can get out more. Yeah, you keep saying that. But I'm getting antsy, bruh. I need my ground adventures. Cliff clapped Eric on the shoulder. I'm so sorry, my foot being ground up like a slab of meat is cramping your style. Eric deadpanned. I'll try to do better. Oh, come on. Cliff rolled his eyes. I'm not that selfish. I know you're not. Eric replied. Still fun to mess with you. Yeah, let's see how much you can walk when I let you go for being a butt. Cliff nudged his friend, who stuck his tongue out at him. I'd like to see you try to walk on this. Eric lowered his prosthetic to the ground with a thunk reminiscent of Hiccup's walk. It's not easy. Hiccup said as he pulled back the curtain to reveal the rest of the healer's house. But you get used to it. Till then, you have to challenge yourself to do a little more each day. Cliff snatched a pencil off of Eric's nightstand and tossed it across the room. What was that for? Eric yelped indignantly. Fetch. Cliff pointed to the pencil, which was still rolling away. Eric blinked at him. You need to exercise. Challenge yourself. You must be stable on 2 legs to propose to Anna 1D. Cliff. Pencil. Now. Eric's face reddened as he pointed to the pencil. Cliff made a face. Fine, he sulked, crossing the room and grabbing the pencil. For the record, that's not what I meant. Hiccup told him. He's not a dragon, Cliff. I should hope not. Inga announced as she entered the room. I've cleaned up after him enough. Last thing I need is to wipe fish goo and dragon drool off the bed. Speaking of, how's Charger? Eric asked Hiccup. Is he doing okay? He's extremely antsy. Hiccup replied with a sigh. He misses you. Cries at night sometimes. We take turns sleeping in the living room next to him when he gets upset, but I think he's okay. Is Finn still flying with him? Yeah, but those two are not a good match. Charger snapped at him the other day. Hiccup snickered. It was his own fault though. Oh. Was he showing off? Inga asked with a smirk. No. He doesn't really show off anymore. I've kind of missed that, come to think of it. Anyway, Charger was eating something he shouldn't and Finn tried to wrestle it away. Stupid thing to do. Hiccup shook his head. But it didn't even bleed. Bruised up pretty bad, good thing it was his left hand. Well, Charger's my dragon. I'm the only one who can get him to stop eating furniture. He eats furniture. Tarin made an appearance, smiling at the forming group within the healer's house. Not anymore. Eric shook his head. Well, I think I can get started trying to walk on this thing now. He leaned heavily on Cliff and slowly stood. Cliff couldn't help but notice just how much pain Eric must be in. But before his best friend could take a single step, 2 more people entered the room. Sorry, did I miss anything? Adriana panted. We got carried away. Eric's face noticeably brightened at the sight of his closest friend. Cliff smiled knowingly. Here Eric was, suffering through agony but still grinning at her. And the flower she'd placed in her hair was certainly a blast from a much happier past. Of course, Finn's presence did add attention to the room, but Eric only had eyes for Adriana. Hey, he breathed. You look nice. You think so? Adriana touched the purple flower in her ponytail. Yeah. I like the flowers. And there were the dimples. Eric's face went slightly pink and he averted his eyes. So what's the plan? Why are so many people here? Well, it was my idea. Hiccup explained. I'll stand against this wall here. Inga and Cliff can stand on Eric's right while Tarin and Addy can stand to his left. If he needs help, there'll be someone close by on either to catch him. And you? Asked Inga. What are you and Finn doing? Finn is here to watch. Hiccup smiled at his son. I didn't think he'd come today. And I'm here to be the end of the line and help turn Eric around when he gets to me. I feel like a toddler. Eric quipped. You sure I can handle this, Dad? Hiccup beamed. I know you can. I was out for 2 weeks after my incident and it's been about 2 weeks for you too. But I'm not expecting anything groundbreaking. I'm a fast healer. You've got a good thing going, man. Cliff patted Eric on the back. 3 lovely ladies to catch you if you fall. Eric laughed. Yeah, every guy dreams of having his foot decimated just to fall into the arms of the only 3 girls who can stand to be around me. You're lucky, mate. Finn called from across the room. These 3 ladies would let me fall on my face. And then laugh at you. Inga added. Too true. Finn agreed. I get it. Eric smiled but the dimples didn't return. So let's stop talking and make this boy walk. Cliff gave Eric a gentle push so that he stood, wobbling on his prosthetic. All right, small steps. Hiccup coached. Hands out for balance, good, like that. Cliff watched Eric slowly but surely walk across the room. But the journey wasn't without a stumble. Eric lost his balance and fell sideways onto Adriana. Sorry, he yelped, his face going scarlet. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry, Annie. That's why I'm here. Adriana smiled warmly at him and helped him stand up again. You're doing great. Adriana wiped his forehead with a handkerchief before helping him regain his balance and continue walking toward Hiccup. When he finally reached the hooligan chief, he smiled. See? Gets a little easier every day. Hiccup held his shoulders to keep him balanced. You all right to walk back? I think so. Eric panted. Hiccup helped him turn around and gently pushed him toward his chair. Cliff couldn't help but notice the beads of sweat on his best friend's forehead. Eric's hands trembled as he slowly took each step closer to his goal. When he finally reached his chair, thankfully without running into everyone, he sighed in relief. Okay, I think that's about it for now. Hiccup said, grinning as he walked over to the youngest Larson. We can try again this evening if you're feeling up to it. Yeah. Eric panted, sitting down on and looking a lot more comfortable. I can't wait to be able to look people in the eye with ease. I feel short. Tell me about it. Tarin said with a wink. Okay, shorter. Eric chortled. No offense to the vertically challenged. None taken. for now. Tarin patted Eric's head. But I do like looking down at you for once. It is fun, piped up Cliff. Looking at the world from your perch above everyone's heads. By the way, your flower is lovely, Miss Anna Banana. Yeah, I thought you didn't wear them anymore. Eric added. Well, I figured I might as well smell nice if you fell on me. Adriana sat down in a seat next to Eric so she was more level with him. What do you know, you did? Yeah. Eric breathed, his dimples coming back. Tarin clapped her hands together. Well, you should wear them more often, Anna. I'm pretty good with hair, you should come over. I'd love to get my hands on it sometime. Adriana's eyebrows jumped in surprise. Yeah. That sounds fun. You, girl time. There's something you need more of. Cliff cooed. I couldn't agree more, said Hiccup, playfully tugging his daughter's hair. Someone needs to tame these pretty locks. Why did we go from talking about helping Eric walk to my hair? Adriana asked incredulously. I think our rehabilitating friend is more important. It's okay, chat about whatever. Eric shrugged. My agonizing journey across the room and back is complete for now, he exhaled slowly. I'm just happy to have the company. I think Anna having a girlfriend for once is revolutionary. Inga chirped. She snorted with laughter. Wait, no, that's not how I meant it. I meant a girl who's a friend. She's not, you know what I meant. Finn spat out a mouthful of water. Yeah, Anna, I don't need another sister, he chortled. Shut it, lovebirds. Adriana snapped at them, a smirk playing on her lips. Both Finn and Inga rolled their eyes but avoided the accusation, as they knew provocation would result in more teasing. Why don't you and Tarin go paint your nails and talk about boys? Hiccup suggested. I think it'll be good for you. You should go too. Snotlout said as he sauntered in. I think you'd look nice with green nails. He clapped Hiccup on the back, grinning at Hiccup's withering gaze. The teen snickered. Everyone knows red is his color. Tough Nut practically skipped into the room, his twin following closely behind. Okay, why is everyone crowding in here? Eric asked, eyebrow raised. Well, I'm here to pick up my child. Snotlout crossed his arms. I'm here because apparently Hiccup needs a makeover. Tough Nut stared intensely at his friend. Yeah. I'm thinking blue tips on the hair. That'll look good. And rainbow nails. Rough Nut added cheerfully. Snotlout burst out laughing. Yeah, that would look amazing. Ha ha. Very funny. Hiccup rolled his eyes. You should go on tour with that act. Maybe Dad can be your clown. Inga skipped over to her father. I think he'd look good with curly pink hair. Or no hair at all. Finn piped up. Exactly. Inga agreed. You should go with Anna and Tarin. Hey, we're not making fun of me right now, we're making fun of Hiccup. Snotlout protested. Oh, I think we're making fun of you. Astrid said as she walked in. I don't even need context to figure that out. You're an easy target. The teens watched the adults bicker with some amount of fascination, moving their heads back and forth as if they were watching a game of high-speed fetch. Cliff wondered if it had always been like that between them. Do you know what I do for your ungrateful people? Snotlout asked indignantly. I am the head hunter. Sheesh, don't lob off mine. Cliff pulled his collar up over his neck as the others laughed. You know that's not what I meant. I meant I'm the hunter who is the head of all the other hunters. And I do a ton of security and armory jobs. Snotlout continued, gesticulating wildly. My role in this village is irreplaceable even if I'm not the chief. So I think I'm owed a bit of respect. Smack. Snotlout went flying backward and slammed into a table full of folded clothes. Hiccup stood triumphantly over him, shaking off his open palm. That's two. Two what? Snotlout bellowed over everyone's cheers and applause. Why the oh gods, are you serious? Oh yes. We made that bet 5 years ago. I've been holding on to them. 5 years. Figured they might come in handy, he snorted. No pun intended. He got you good, Daddy. Inga giggled. And it was totally within the rules. Adriana added. As slap bet commissioner, my word is law, and I did say he could slap you any time. Yeah, the nice thing about slaps is that they never expire. Hiccup shrugged and blew into his palm. I mean, it's no picnic for me, Snotlout. Not only does it hurt my hand, that unsightly handprint on your face is no picnic to look at. Not that your face isn't already unsightly enough. Astrid added. Snotlout growled loudly, only making the others laugh harder. Are the slap bet? Perhaps the greatest invention mankind will ever know. Rough Nut said dramatically. Too true. Tough Nut wiped tears of joy out of his eyes. This changes everything. Cliff excitedly turned to Eric. Don't you understand, this solves all of our wager-related problems. I wasn't aware we had any. Eric raised an eyebrow. Well, Anna and I were going to hang out, want to come, Inga? Taryn asked the younger girl. Dad. Ah, fine. Snotlout stood up, massaging his cheek. But don't let the Haddocks influence you too much. The girls left the room, chatting about shorter hairstyles for Inga. Hiccup watched his daughter go with an affectionate smile. Now I can breathe a little easier, he said with a sigh. My girl can actually be a girl. Well, I came by to get you, Hiccup. You've got that thing at the academy. Astrid put her arm around his waist. Oh yeah. Sorry folks, show's over. Hiccup allowed his wife to lead him out. Wait up. Finn hopped to his feet and followed them out. All right, everyone, you've had your fun. Mara announced, bustling in and shooing them with a handkerchief in her hand. But let's give this poor boy some air. All right, all right. Rough Nut hightailed it out of there, Tough Nut at her heels. Looks like it's just you and me, buddy. Cliff turned to his friend and took a seat after Mara left again. Which is good, because we need to discuss a very important topic. Which is how you were looking at Anna. Cliff said unabashedly. Eric's cheeks turned pink. That's all right. I don't think that needs discussing. Oh please. Cliff huffed impatiently. Why wouldn't this silly boy listen? Everyone jokes about you two for a reason. You're perfect for each other. And don't tell me you don't feel it too. You can't even think about her without smiling. Eric laughed nervously. There's no point. She has a boyfriend. It's just a crush. Come on. Cliff smacked Eric upside the head. Ow. Eric rubbed his scalp indignantly. What was that for? Someone has to knock some sense into you. This, you and her, that's no crush. Gods, that's how Hiccup looks at Astrid. How my parents look at each other. That's mad, unending, devoted, passionate love right there, and we're all going to explode if you don't do some grand romantic gesture to prove your love for her. Cliff gasped when he was finished talking before he continued. I don't want to hear any more excuses from you, Eric Larson. You love that girl, you should fight for her. I don't want to talk about this. Eric tried to wheel away, but Cliff grabbed his arm. Fine. Then look me in the eye and tell me it's over. You have no feelings for her whatsoever. That it doesn't make you sick to see her with Brandine. Cliff demanded. If you can say that with all honesty, I'll never bring it up again. Eric took a deep breath and averted his eyes. Yanking his arm out of Cliff's grasp, he wheeled into the next room over and shut the door. Finn held open the door for his parents and followed them outside. Hiccup squeezed his shoulder when he stepped onto the dirt path and looked around the village. How you feeling? Okay, Finn murmured. In truth, it had been a long week. He was exhausted. But he knew his hard work was just beginning, so he wouldn't complain or quit. He wouldn't run himself into the ground again either, though. He had to quit both extremes. Astrid kissed his cheek. We're headed to the academy to go through some stuff in storage. Want to come? Finn thought for a moment, then shrugged. Sure. Great. Hiccup smiled, ushering his wife and son forward. Tough Nut was telling me the other day about all the old stuff he found in the closets, so we figured we'd go through it and see what we could find. Finn hid a smile as his dad continued to prattle. He caught his mom's look of amusement and continued forward, listening intently. He'd realized earlier in the week that his dad's tendency to ramble meant he was in a good mood and happy to be with his loved ones. He became easily excited about things that interested him, so he naturally wanted to tell them all about it. He'd felt guilty upon the realization that his former attitude problems and telling his father to shut up all the time had been a slap to the face. No wonder his dad had always been so depressed. Apparently most of the stuff found in the storage closets was old equipment from his parents' day. Finn's interest was piqued when the words dragon racing were mentioned. Dragon racing? What's that? Hiccup smiled knowingly. We'll show you everything. A few shouts of surprise erupted behind them. Finn felt his parents stiffen on either side of him, but before he could turn around a massive being collided with him from behind. The air was knocked out of his lungs as he was thrust forward and upward. Finn gasped in shock when his vision cleared. The village was shrinking at an alarming pace. He realized in horror that a dragon had its clawed feet wrapped around his upper arms and was flying away from Burke. Looking back as best he could, he saw his parents tearing through the village after their dragons and a few other riders taking to the sky to rescue him. Finn struggled against his captor's blue claws. Hey! Put me down, you big blue and green head leaned down in front of his face and chortled loudly. Finn gasped in complete shock. You! The beautiful dragon he'd rescued chortled again and twisted in the air excitedly, nearly yanking Finn's arms out of his sockets. Her wings rippled with unspent electricity. Hey, stop! You're going to wait! Finn screamed when the dragon suddenly let go of his arms. He plummeted through the air at top speeds, the village looming closer and closer. He heard Toothless' sonar whistle above him. He desperately hoped his father would rescue him before he became a not-so-fearless Finn pancake. The blue dragon suddenly swooped in from the side, colliding with him. Finn yelled indignantly, grappling with her large, slippery neck to get a handhold. They were flying too hard, too fast. If he fell now, he'd be seriously injured, if not dead on impact. Finally, he slung a leg over her neck, yanked her horns toward the open square, and commanded her to land. Down! The blue dragon screeched indignantly at her fun being cut off so short. She zipped into the square, landing hard on her front feet. Having no saddle, Finn flew off her back and landed in the dirt, doing his best to bend his knees and roll so he wouldn't break anything. Finn lay in the dirt for a few seconds panting. He heard running footsteps before someone rolled him over. Adriana's eyes were as wide as saucers, her half-braided hair coming undone. Oh my gods, are you okay? The haddock teenager coughed painfully and tried to sit up. I taste my spleen. Finn. Astrid sprinted to his side, her face white with worry. You were thrown. Don't move. Nothing's broken, I'm fine. Finn carefully sat up and looked around. He wiped his face and ignored the worried crowd, his eyes focusing on the dragoness cowering 20 feet away, surrounded by numerous dragons and their riders. Hiccup stood in front of her with his flaming sword. Wait. Dad, she's fine. Finn, slow down. Astrid ordered, but he struggled to his feet. Hiccup warily watched his son. Finn, are you okay? Finn nodded and gestured for everyone to put their weapons down. She's fine, she was just playing. The female dragon's head popped up when she saw Finn. Her tail thumped against the ground excitedly. You're just full of surprises, aren't you? You know this dragon? Snotlout asked from atop Hook Fang. Finn held out his hand, which the blue dragon accepted with gusto. Easy. You've been alone too long, haven't you? You just wants love and attention. The dragon bounced up and down in place, eagerly licking his face. Finn blushed at the witnessing crowd. Yeah, I saved her from a trap somewhere. You didn't tell us you rescued a dragon. Hiccup commented as he stepped closer, looking her over. She's beautiful. What is she? Finn asked eagerly. I've never seen a dragon like this before. Hiccup held out a hand, which the dragon sniffed. She melted and nearly thrust her face into his arms. The chief laughed. I could be mistaken, but I think she's a shockjaw. Now you're right, Finn snorted. She definitely shocks. Fishlegs stepped forward, nearly squealing in excitement. A shockjaw. We've never had one on Burke before. Why not? Finn asked, scratching her chin. They like warmer climates. Hiccup said, taking note of the small quills on her chin and throat. Judging by her size and how easily excited she is, I'm going to say she's about, 8 or 9 months old. That's it? Finn asked in surprise. She's pretty big for so young. She'll get bigger. Hiccup winked. Sweet. Finn whispered. The Shockjaw sniffed his hair and clothes and he poked her nose. She stepped back and sneezed. Stop that. The dragon mewed and grabbed his sleeve, dragging him toward Hiccup. Hey, seriously? Yes, I know, this one's mine. Hiccup snickered, scratching her face. So what are we going to do with her? Gustav Larsen asked. We can't trust a dragon that might carry someone off. She won't hurt anyone, Finn said. She was just excited to see me. Well, if that's the case, you keep her, piped up Adriana, who the dragon was greeting next. The dragon turned to face him, her large teal eyes meeting his. As he stared into them, he couldn't deny the connection he felt with her. She was wild, crazy, and wise. She was the only thing that gave him the final push to come home. She kept him on his toes and challenged him more than Thornado ever had. She'd have to be trained, which might take effort due to her age and wild persona. But the more he thought about it, the more his heart longed to keep her. He looked up at Hiccup and Astrid, who had knowing smiles on their faces. Hiccup shrugged. It's fine with us. A smile wormed its way onto his face and the Shockjaw suddenly jumped up and down with so much excitement, she started knocking barrels over. Finn laughed. Okay, relax. Astrid reached out to scratch her neck. What's her name? Without pause, Finn grinned. Zap. Gobber was pulling yet another box out of the old dragon cages at the academy when he heard the telltale chatter that only the haddocks could achieve. He turned around to find Hiccup, Adriana, and Finn in stitches over a story Astrid was telling. Their dragons hopped around them like excited kittens, Toothless warbling happily at his human's cheer and Stormfly screeching with Lily. An unfamiliar dragon trailed them, attempting to join the females in their conversation but constantly bumping Finn on the back. Gobber smiled knowingly. Oh, he called. Just can't keep it down, can you? Do we have to? Hiccup snooked, still chortling at the story. I don't see a sleeping baby. Why can't I yell for no reason, he suddenly bellowed. Gobber cuffed him on the back of the head. Finn snorted in amusement. You always were a rebel, but do you have to teach the kiddies such bad habits? My offspring, my rules. Hiccup informed him almost seriously. So what have you got? What have you got? Gobber nodded to Zap, who was attempting to sniff Stormfly's tail. Ah. Gobber, meet Zap. Finn gestured grandly to the Shockjaw. A Shockjaw. Very impressive. Where'd you manage to find out of these on Berk? Gobber asked, carefully approaching the baby dragon. Zap jumped in front of Finn and let out a warning growl. Oh, stop! The elderly man waved his remaining hand. I'm no threat to this chip off the old block. Yeah, he's okay, Zappy. Finn cooed to his dragon. Zap licked his face. Let's keep the French kisses to a minimum. Well, you have to practice with someone, Finnegan. Adriana sassed. So you can be an expert when you're snogging Inga. Shut up, you. Finn snipped, now rubbing Zap's belly. Well now, seeing you haddocks so happy and cheerful is a rare sight these days. Gobber smiled widely. Usually you're at each other's throats. What's changed? I think we all have. Astrid told him. And that's enough sappy sentiments for this old coot. Gobber opened the nearest box. Let's see what we've got here. Here's a blast from the past. Hiccup. He extracted a small, brown vest. Remember this? Whoa. Adriana skipped over and took the vest from him. She held it up. You wore this. It's so tiny. Finn finished. You were a toothpick. I wasn't I? Hiccup snickered, holding the vest up to his chest. Well, here's definitive proof that I was appropriately named. You were smaller than I remember. Astrid pointed out. I don't even think Adri could fit in that. Okay, it's a small vest, what's next? Hiccup tossed the vest next to the box as Gobber got out a large net. Dragon trap? Finn asked, grasping part of it. It's got little bits of wool in it though. Sheep net. Astrid replied. For dragon racing. Why'd we stop doing that, anyway? I don't know. I think we took it down because we were getting married in the arena. Hiccup pulled the rest of the net out. Yeah, then we had our honeymoon, and when it would have been a good time to start again, a certain pair of twins complicated matters. Wait. Finn crossed his arms. You're telling me you played sports and only stopped because you weren't careful enough with your tea drinking? Isn't it sad? That should be a lesson to the both of you. Astrid eyed the twins. When you're married, don't just go crazy and drink your tea to avoid surprises. Okay. Adriana clapped her hands over her ears. I don't need to know any more about old people love. Hiccup immediately hopped over the box and put his arms around his wife. You ain't seen nothing, not really, he said before dipping her for a passionate kiss. I'm with you too. Gobber rolled his eyes. So while your parents are distracted, now might be a good time to rifle through their old rulebook. He held up a loosely bound book with the title Dragon Racing in the center. Finn snatched it out of his hand and turned to the first page. No changing the rules unless everyone agrees, that goes for you, rough and tough and snot loud, he read out loud. I mean it, don't change it. Thorough. Adriana commented. And you haven't even gotten to the rules yet. Well, they had a habit of messing with our projects in the past. Hiccup explained, finally letting go of Astrid. And we didn't want to go into a game of dragon racing only to find out they changed all the rules without us knowing. This game looks awesome. Finn exclaimed as he read through the rules. Chasing sheep, running into each other, competing for points. Why didn't you tell us how cool you were? I think there was a compliment in there somewhere. Astrid huffed. I think we should play it. Adriana suggested as she read over Finn's shoulders. You've got all the equipment here. And I bet we all could set it up in no time. Yeah, and that'd be a great way to blow off steam. Finn added with a grin. A healthy way. What do you say? Astrid looked at Hiccup. So what do you say? I say the kids are on to something. Hiccup patted Toothless on his head. What do you think, bud? Ready to get out the war paint? Toothless warbled excitedly in response. I thought so. War paint. Finn yelped. Even better. I call red and black. Good, because I call purple and blue. Ick, purple and blue. Those aren't war colors. R2. When's the last time an army dressed in purple and blue struck fear in the hearts of their enemies? Who says I can't be the first? You're hopeless. Well, as far as spats between those two go, Astrid said, putting her arm around Hiccup's waist, I think we could do worse. We could. Hiccup agreed. Welcome home, Haddocks. As the twins bickered over their war paint, Zack knocked over an entire box of loose screws, and they all chatted about how to set up the village to start racing again. Hiccup and Astrid couldn't help but smile. Their son was home, their daughter was happy, and they had a brand new dragon in the family. Life on Berk was finally due to improve more than ever in the next few years. Sure, things weren't perfect. Finn had a lot of work ahead of him to prove his repentance to the village. But if there was one thing all four Haddocks knew, it was that even though things may not be ideal right now, they would continue to improve as life went on. And there was no reason to believe that their troubles weren't finally over. This is Berk. It's an adaptable place, often battered and covered in ice, but it's home to the strong and to the weak among us. Fortunately, we know more than most what strength and weakness entails. Strength cannot be measured in muscles or brawn, but that doesn't mean the biggest among us cannot also be the strongest. We exhibit strength in our own ways, through our actions and through our convictions. The maturity to admit when we have wronged others and to make up for our mistakes often takes a tremendous amount of courage. Because to seek redemption, we must face the most terrifying parts of ourselves and conquer them before we can even think of trying to face off against the dangers of the world. It takes real strength to fight our own demons. And even more to overcome them. but I think we face a brighter future when we know the true meaning of what it is to be strong and to continue to learn from the strongest among us. The end.